Welcome to Red Story. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the plot. Want to know what psychologists would comment about it? Read till the end. Part 1. Shadows of the Past. Mark and Lisa have been married for 20 years. Their marriage always seemed perfect. They loved each other, raised 2 wonderful children, and created a cozy, warm atmosphere in their home. However, over time, something changed. Life began to feel routine, and their relationship became increasingly mundane. Mark started staying late at work, justifying it by saying he had begun going to the gym. He explained that he wanted to feel young again to be in good shape. Lisa, who had always trusted him, decided not to make a big deal out of it, though deep down she started having doubts. With each passing day, Mark became more and more engrossed in his activities. He became obsessed with his appearance, eating right, and meticulously taking care of himself. Lisa noticed that he had changed, not just physically, but emotionally as well. He became more withdrawn, distant, and spent less time with the family. Part 2. Doubts. One evening, when Mark was staying late at work as usual, Lisa accidentally found a business card in his pocket. It had an address and the name of a place she had never heard of. A sense of unease began to grow inside her. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next day, when Mark left for the gym again, Lisa decided to check out the address. She drove to a building that at first glance looked like an ordinary office building. However, when she entered, she was stunned to discover that it was an elite club with dim lighting, soft music, and a luxurious atmosphere. Everything there was shrouded in mystery, and as it turned out, the facade concealed a brothel. Lisa was in shock. Her heart began to race as she realized that Mark might be visiting this place. While she stood there, deep in thought, the manager approached her, mistook her for a new employee, and offered her a job as a waitress. Lisa was so bewildered that she didn't know how to react. She silently agreed, deciding to find out what was really going on. Part 3. Discovering the truth. Lisa started working at the establishment, trying to figure out what connected her husband to this place. She began observing the customers, listening to conversations, hoping for a clue. Inside her, a volcano of emotions was brewing: fear, anger, pain, and curiosity. She couldn't believe that Mark, her loving and devoted husband, could be involved in something like this. A few days after she started working there, Mark stayed late at work again. Lisa knew he would come to the club, and she decided to use that evening to look him in the eyes. She carefully prepared herself. She put on an elegant black dress, did her makeup, and styled her hair. She looked beautiful and confident, but inside she was trembling. When Mark walked into the room, Lisa felt her heart clench with pain. He looked relaxed, even content. Not noticing her, he sat down at a table and ordered a Bloody Mary. Lisa gathered her strength and approached his table, placing the drink in front of him. Mark looked up and froze. In that moment, time seemed to stop. They both stood silent, shocked by what was happening. Mark couldn't believe his eyes. His wife stood before him, so beautiful, but clearly not in a place where he ever expected to see her. Part 4. Emotional explosion. Mark nervously laughed, trying to make sense of what was happening. His laughter was filled with despair, as if he realized that his secret was out and there was no turning back. Lisa, unable to bear the tension, also began to laugh, but her laughter quickly turned into sobs. This was a moment when all their hidden emotions, accumulated over the years, burst forth. "What are you doing here?" Mark finally asked after they both calmed down a bit. "I could ask you the same question," Lisa replied through tears. "I found your business card and decided to check it out. And you? What are you doing here, Mark?" Mark averted his eyes, avoiding her gaze. "I don't know, Lisa. I just didn't know how to handle this. Getting older. The feeling that I'm losing myself." Lisa looked at him with pain in her eyes, realizing that she too felt this emptiness, but they never talked about it with each other. Instead, they both tried to fill it in their own ways, hiding their fears and doubts. They continued to talk, sitting at that table. They laughed and cried, reminiscing about how things used to be and realizing that they were on the brink of losing what they had. This conversation was the first honest discussion they had had in a long time, one they had needed for so long. Part 5. A New Path. When they left the club, the night was quiet and a cool breeze carried the scent of rain. They realized that not everything was lost. They had a chance to reclaim each other and restore their marriage. They decided to seek help from a family psychologist to work through their feelings and try to rebuild what had been broken. Therapy became a new chapter in their lives. They started talking about their problems, fears, and what was bothering them. Several months passed, and therapy helped them understand their mistakes and deal with their inner demons. They learned how to trust each other and communicate openly without hiding their fears and doubts. Their marriage became stronger than before, and they both realized that love is not just a feeling, but a daily commitment to work on themselves and their relationship. Lisa and Mark decided to leave the past behind and start fresh. They knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but they were ready to walk it together. Psychologist's conclusion. The case of Lisa and Mark is a vivid example of how a midlife crisis can impact a marriage and lead to actions that threaten the family's well-being. The midlife crisis is a period in life when a person begins to reassess their achievements, goals, and values. During this time, individuals may experience intense emotional fluctuations, feelings of dissatisfaction, fear of aging, and the loss of life opportunities. These emotions can trigger various forms of crisis, including infidelity as a means of escaping reality or compensating for a sense of inner emptiness. The psychological basis of the midlife crisis. The midlife crisis typically occurs around the age of 40 to 50. During this period, many people begin to realize the finite nature of life and understand that a significant portion of their life journey has already passed. For some, this realization becomes a trigger for reevaluating their life achievements and attempting to catch up on what they believe they've missed out on. Mark, like many others facing a midlife crisis, began seeking ways to cope with this internal conflict. He started working out, eating right, and taking care of himself in an attempt to regain a sense of controlling youth. However, these external changes did not lead to internal satisfaction, and he began looking for other ways to fill the emerging void, which ultimately led him to visit a questionable establishment. Infidelity as a consequence of the crisis. In this context, infidelity is not so much a pursuit of new love or passion, as it is an attempt to deal with the feeling of losing control over one's life. For many people experiencing a midlife crisis, infidelity becomes a way to feel desired, young, and attractive again. In Mark's case, infidelity was a way to escape from the inner pain caused by the realization of his vulnerability and aging. However, infidelity never solves the problem and only exacerbates it. Instead of dealing with the internal crisis, infidelity creates new problems, destroys trust, and leads to emotional devastation for both the betrayer and the betrayed partner. The role of psychological help. Family therapy, which Lisa and Mark decided to pursue, is an important tool for restoring relationships after infidelity. A psychologist helps both partners understand the reasons that led to the infidelity and cope with the emotional consequences. In Lisa and Mark's case, therapy allowed them to address their feelings, relearn to trust each other, and restore emotional closeness. Moreover, therapy helps individuals experiencing a midlife crisis to recognize and accept their fears, cope with feelings of dissatisfaction, and find new, more constructive ways of overcoming the crisis. Instead of seeking fulfillment outside of marriage, therapy helps a person realize that internal changes and self-acceptance are the keys to true happiness. Conclusion. The midlife crisis is a natural stage in life that, although emotionally challenging, is an important moment for personal growth. Infidelity, as a way to cope with a crisis, only worsens the situation and causes suffering for everyone involved. However, with the right approach and support, such as family therapy and self-work, the crisis can be overcome, and the relationship can become even stronger and deeper. Lisa and Mark were able to save their marriage because they were willing to openly discuss their problems, acknowledge their mistakes, and work on themselves. Their story shows that even the most difficult times can lead to positive changes if both partners are willing to go through this journey together.